What's up guys, I'm randomfrankp. Today we're going to be checking out my brand new main gaming monitor that has absolute dream specs for an ultrawide and is a massive upgrade over what I've been using for the last 4 years now. This is the PG34WC-DM, a 240Hz OLED ultrawide with a 0.03 millisecond response time. Those specs in an ultrawide are impressive as it is, and it's a massive upgrade over my current LG UltraGear monitors that I've had since 2021. Checking it out for the included stand, the monitor is height adjustable with a range of 110 millimeters, swivels at 30 degrees with 15 degrees to the left and right side, and tilts 20 degrees upward and 5 degrees downward to adjust it to your preferred viewing angle. For I/O, underneath the display is a headphone jack and a USB-A for charging, with the bulk of the inputs on the backside obviously. Here we have two HDMI 2.1 ports and a display 1.4, a 90-watt USB Type-C, which can fully power and charge a laptop by the way, USB-A and B ports, as well as optical for audio. You also get an additional USB port on the top of the display, which is meant to conveniently power whatever accessory you have mounted here, and a 1/4 inch thread on the top of the stand. So this is like a webcam, light, microphone mount, anything like that, which was obviously made with streamers in mind. Then lastly, before we move on, we do have some RGB on the back of the panel. Nothing crazy and not bright enough to throw some, color on your wall or anything like that. And honestly, I would have preferred it not even be included and save the $20 during manufacturing. The tripod stand is definitely a bit large to accommodate and balance the monitor properly, so you'll see it's barely even staying on my monitor stand, but in the long run, I'm going to be mounting this anyways. With the 800R curve as a 34 inch, I think technically it's 33.8 inches here. And this does have a bit more of an aggressive curve than your typical ultrawide, so naturally, due to that curve bending towards you more, it does have this visual effect that it's not as wide as a regular 34 inch. It just seems a tad bit smaller. Now this is my first 240Hz OLED monitor, and gaming on this right out of the bat has been an immaculate upgrade, and it was super noticeable the second I booted it up and started playing some games, since I'm coming from an 144Hz IPS display that I've been using the last 3 to 4 years. This new smooth 240Hz 0.03 millisecond response time on an OLED panel might sound cliche or dumb, but it brings everything to life now. Games look so much better than they ever have. To properly take advantage of this, you can't forget to switch the refresh rate in your display settings from 60 Hz out of the box to 240 now. And in your game settings as well, same thing, you can now bump it to the new high refresh rate. So remember, just because your monitor now has the ability, you have to manually adjust it in both your PC display settings and also in-game now, or else it'll just be as it was stock out of the box, 60 Hz and 60 FPS. Also want you guys to keep in mind, little disclaimer, this video is being filmed at 29.97 FPS. So you won't be able to really visually differentiate that new buttery smooth gameplay footage we have at 240 Hz because you're seeing this through a 30 FPS YouTube video. But now let's take a closer look at the actual display panel. Viewing angles are fantastic with this panel. Barely any color washout and the image is still visible from left, right, top, and bottom. Contrast and saturation barely takes a hit, still stays sharp too, which is impressive because a lot of times from these drastic angles, the image will just look gray, but not here. Helping that out in part is due to the matte finish, which cuts down on reflections, whether direct or indirect. And again, working out of my YouTube studio where I have like 12 studio grade lights on for filming, the matte coating is doing wonders here. I'm showing you this shot in particular because as you can see circled, the reflection from my light bar is soft and diffused, rather being like an almost mirrored reflection from the light source that was about 3 feet away from the screen. Now, real quick, when I myself was deciding, what new monitor I wanted to pick up, I was doing my research and I came across a YouTube video like any other consumer would, hopefully like how you found this video today. And I saw one review in particular that called the matte coating on this screen the absolute worst they've ever seen in their life. That's just being super dramatic. While yes, glossy screens give your image more of that natural pop since there's no additional coating like we have here with the matte finish, for me personally, I don't have like any gripes with it. It's still super sharp in person and up close. I mean, you guys can see during my gameplay and B-roll, everything looks stunning. And to call this the worst thing they've ever laid eyes on is just dramatic, like I said. Out of the box, I didn't color calibrate it or anything like that, but it does look gorgeous as is, for both gaming and editing, mind you. It's rated at 99% DCI-P3 gamut and a 104.8 sRGB color calibration mode. Going through the different built-in color profiles, as you can see right here, stock, it's on the racing mode, and honestly, I think that's the best one as well that looks best for all forms of content. Of course, some of the other color profiles are made to make certain games pop a bit more in certain games, or have like increased sharpness for FPS shooters. Even this gimmicky night vision mode, which just makes it dark and green. Trying out the night vision mode, even in dark environments, doesn't give you like an advantage, and it doesn't work like true night vision. It's more so just a color palette. Shadow boosts are another setting that can be enabled in the OSD to 3 different settings, and a dynamic adjustment which kind of adjusts as it goes. And you can see it does brighten the image overall and gives a boost to the shadows, but I like the more punchy look of that turned off. I would only use that for like a really dark in-gameplay scenario. It's kind of like a faux HDR mode. But speaking of HDR, the monitor is definitely one of the brighter HDR panels that I've seen over the years. Sometimes when you enable HDR, it expands the dynamic range, but then it sacrifices brightness majorly. Here, it's 30% brighter than previous panels, and while I couldn't find any like official nit ratings anywhere online, I'll take them at their word for it. Personally, I never enable HDR, just my preference, because while yes, you get more of that sort of like cinematic expanded dynamic range, I do like a more punchy look with more contrast in my gameplay, which is rated at 1.5 million to 1 contrast. My previous monitor was rated at 1,000 to 1. So talk about an upgrade here. Another built-in OSD setting you can enable are crosshairs, which will appear directly on the center for games that don't have that, and you want to know exactly where you're, precisely aiming at all times. This isn't really anything new. Other monitors have this built in as well. But another thing you can do is enable a sniping zoom multiplier, which gives you either a 1.2 or 1.5 zoomed in box on the center of your screen to give you more of this like zoomed in cropped look for sniping. Now, in theory, sure, this could work, but for me, I can't use this. I play a lot of Battlefield where you have to factor in, distance, recoil, weather conditions, all that stuff. And the box just makes it way harder to determine that type of stuff because it crops in that important depth out now. But for games where all I need to do is click heads, this could be a nice little free hacks for your gameplay. You can also combine crosshairs with the zoom and the night vision mode to really dial in your legal hacks. But again, it just made sniping impossible for me, so not worth it. I'm not gonna use it, but feel free. So with all that being said, for both gaming and video editing, I'm sticking pretty much to stock settings and the racing color mode. And funny enough, for video editing as a content creator, the racing mode most closely matches the monitor calibration for my previous LG monitors that I've used to edit the last 4 years worth of videos on this channel. So keeping that consistency now means that I'll be able to color grade pretty much exactly like I've been used to. Now, as a content creator, one thing I was always hesitant about when switching to OLED was how OLED panels handle text and text clarity, especially due to the RWBG subpixel layout that we have on this panel. But I don't know if I hit the silicone lottery, so to speak, but the text look way better than I was expecting. Sure, you do have some color fringing on the side with the green and magenta tint, but it's really not too noticeable unless you're like right up on it. They do have a setting called Pixel Edge in the OSD that reduces that a bit more and sort of sacrifices text sharpness. But honestly, on black and white, I think text is more than usable. Where I noticed it more so was any other scenario where text wasn't on a black or white background. Then it becomes more apparent, that color fringing. But honestly, this is way better than I thought it would be. As a content creator, for video editing or photo editing, I have to make sure the text is as it appears. So that was always one reason why I never looked towards OLEDs, but the text here I think is fine. The monitor does have an EMLB option, which is extreme low motion blur, made to eliminate motion blur or visual ghosting during gameplay that becomes more apparent during quick movements, especially if you're not hitting your monitor's refresh rate. Or in this case, the 120 Hz that it's locked at. So here to demonstrate it, you can see examples of ghosting, especially in that one instance where a guy jumped down from above me. It left that trailing effect, known as ghosting. Enabling EMLB at that fixed 120 Hz frame rate gives you smoother gameplay overall that eliminates that motion, but you do lose out on the ability to play those higher frames. So say your system isn't strong enough or a particular title is struggling to hit those higher frame rates. If you just want to lock it in at 120 Hz and take advantage of EMLB, that could be a better solution for you to get smoother gameplay. But obviously, if you can go at 240 Hz, then leave EMLB off and take advantage of the super smooth refresh rates. But this PG34WCDM I think is gorgeous. Again, I've never gamed on an OLED panel in the past. I mean, technically I have like on console gaming on a massive TV, but I'm talking PC gaming up close where I can now unlock and take advantage of 240 Hz. It's been looking so good. I called it my dream ultrawide in the beginning because I love ultrawides. Gameplay feels so much more immersive. And now having all these new specs, it just makes whatever you're playing or watching look incredible. Another little advantage you get now at 240 Hz is for gameplay capture. Right at 240 Hz, if you're using like shadow play or whatever you use to cap your gameplay footage, if you want to have that super smooth 240 FPS gameplay where you can do things like slow it down to emphasize a headshot, get some cool slow motion effects going on, whatever you cap is going to look equally as stunning as well at that smooth FPS. Now, some other things this monitor has that I don't really take advantage of is KVM, which I know is a big feature out there for a lot of people. Definitely cool if you can use that. I really don't. Also has picture-in-picture mode and the ability to have your gameplay scaled to a smaller image, like a 27-inch monitor, for example. You can have that 27-inch really just on the 34-inch ultra-wide instead of it being, blown up. So you can have different gameplay resolutions at the true-to-life size, which is definitely pretty cool. Another thing I want to talk about, and again, another big reason why people may hesitate to upgrade to OLED is all that surrounding OLED burn-in. Now, while yes, it's definitely an issue, and there's been a lot of improvements over the years, one thing ASUS does, well, a few things ASUS does to prevent that is buried away in their settings. They have the ability to toggle a screensaver, so the image never gets, formally baked in. There's a manual pixel cleaning mode, and there's a screen move setting. And that also helps with preventing burn-in because on each side of the display, there's about like a centimeter gap. And that lets the screen slowly move over time and slightly shift when you turn it on or off so that the image is never in one place at all times. It'll always sort of shift, like I said, about like a 1 centimeter clearance, if that, so it's never baked in and burnt. Also, I know there's a lot of controversy right now surrounding ASUS and their warranties, but they do have a 2-year extended warranty on this in case it does have that OLED burn-in. But I feel like this is some of the best precautions that I've seen out there to prevent that. So at the end of the day, 240 Hz, 0.03 millisecond response time on this gorgeous OLED panel. I absolutely love it. The features are all there. I am barely taking advantage of them as a gamer and a YouTuber and stuff. So for content creation, again, I'm not going to be using a lot of that stuff, but it's great that it has it. But again, now playing games on an OLED screen at 240 Hz with less than a millisecond response time, everything really feels new again. I know it sounds stupid and cliche. It just pops. It's so buttery smooth. It is a major upgrade. I absolutely love it. When talking cons, $1,300 for this is a lot of money. That's just a lot. No matter who you are, that's a lot for a monitor. Especially since right now we're seeing so much monitor innovation over the last 18 months to 2 years. I feel like monitors are constantly evolving and changing in this recent landscape. So who knows what the next, 12 to 18 months will bring in terms of monitor innovation. It's just a lot of money to drop on a monitor right now. And also, like I said in the beginning, it's gonna take you a little bit to adjust to. And even though it's considered a 34-inch ultra wide, due to that 800R curve being much more drastic, it does seem smaller in person. I've been using ultra wide monitors since 2015. So nearly 10 years at this point. And when I first got it unboxed and set up, I was like, why does this seem a little bit more petite? But I mean, like I said, it's a less than half an inch. It's considered a 33.8-inch monitor, but since it's curved in more towards you, you just lose more of that, extended depth, if you will, since it's more facing you. But not really a big deal. Either way, I absolutely love this. I'm gonna be mounting this over at my main setup as my main gaming display and also for video editing and stuff, since there's practically no difference in terms of the actual color clarity, which is great versus my old monitor. So I'm not gonna have to worry about, adjusting the color correcting. There's a lot more pop with it being an OLED monitor, so I love having that new richness for the contrast. But in terms of color accuracy, still very, very accurate, and it's gonna pretty much give me a 1-to-1 video for when I am color grading, which was my main concern when one of the reasons why I haven't upgraded for a while. So absolutely loving this monitor. 240 Hz, less than a millisecond response time, OLED. Whew. Guys, that'll wrap it up. Hope you all enjoyed. If you want to check it out, I'll have it listed for you in the description down below so you can check it out yourself. If you like this monitor review and you want to see more, let me know. Give this video a big thumbs up to show your support. Feel free to follow me on social media at randomfrankp, all the socials. And lastly, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Hope you all enjoyed. Have a good day.